A wealthy real estate developer walks into the Providence Municipal Court and decides the rules don't apply to him. He steps through those double wooden doors with a confidence that doesn't just fill the room, it swallows it. He's the kind of man who believes the world should move when he moves. The kind who carries his resume like a shield and his bank account like a sword. And on this morning, he's about to discover that neither will help him here. His violation: a stack of parking tickets, 3 careless driving citations, and 1 incident where he allegedly told an officer, "Do you know who I am?" But the paperwork only scratches the surface. What the clerk whispers before the judge takes the bench is far more telling. He was rude to everyone in the lobby. He refused to wait in line. He said he doesn't take orders from regular employees. From the moment he sits, he leans back, like he owns not just the courtroom, but the building, the block, the city. When Judge Frank Caprio calls his name, he doesn't even look up from his phone. What follows is one of the most unforgettable exchanges this court has ever seen in interaction, that the internet would later replay millions of times. Because when entitlement meets dignity, when arrogance meets calm authority, something powerful happens. You're about to watch a man try to weaponize status, and a judge teach him that respect is the only currency that matters here. This story is proof that the law doesn't bend for money, that character outshines status, and that a single courtroom can remind the world nobody is above basic decency. Before we go further, tell us where you're watching from, because this kind of entitlement exists everywhere. It's a great Tuesday morning in Providence, just after 9:15 a.m., the kind of morning where the city feels half awake, coffee cups in hand, shuffling toward whatever the day demands. Inside the Providence Municipal Court, though, things are already buzzing. Judge Frank Caprio has just taken his seat, glasses resting low on his nose, reviewing the docket. The courtroom is small, intimate, almost, but there's an energy in it that always feels bigger than the walls allow. People wait quietly in wooden benches, polished by years of stories, nerves, and hope. The bailiff officer Torres leans in toward the judge with a subtle frown. "Your Honor, just ahead." Next defendant was a lot. In the lobby, Judge Caprio doesn't look up yet. A lot? Torres sighs, the kind of sigh you only earn through decades of dealing with every kind of personality imaginable. He yelled at the clerk for asking him to check in, said he doesn't queue with common people. He also tried to skip security, and he told Officer Delaney that he doesn't take orders from hired help. Judge Caprio closes the folder softly. That tiny gesture tells you something. Not annoyance, just preparation. The clerk calls the name, Michael Renford. Before anyone sees him, they hear the click of expensive shoes on polished floor. Then he appears, mid-40s. Tall, expensively casual designer blazer, hand-cut leather shoes. Watch that probably costs more than some cars parked outside. He walks with the posture of someone used to being followed, deferred to, and obeyed. He doesn't sit like everyone else. He sprawls, one arm over the back of the bench, legs stretched too far into the aisle, phone in hand, thumb scrolling, eyes never lifting. People nearby exchange glances. You know that universal look. Oh boy, it's going to be one of those cases. Renford's violations are straightforward on paper. 3 unpaid parking tickets, 2 speeding citations caught on camera, 1 careless driving stop where he allegedly refused to pull fully over, then allegedly told the officer, "Do you know who I am?" And after reviewing the officer's notes, it seems that wasn't the only line he delivered. When his name is called, Renford doesn't move at first. Judge Caprio waits a polite but firm moment. Only when Torres approaches does Renford finally look up, as if disturbed mid-vacation. He strolls to the defendant's podium, like he's stepping onto a stage he owns, rolls his shoulders, clears his throat unnecessarily, then sets his phone down loudly, screen still lit, notifications popping. And somehow before he even speaks you can feel the attitude. It radiates. The air gets tighter, like everyone in the room subconsciously sits up straighter, bracing themselves. This is not the kind of defendant who came to explain. This is the kind who came to win. And in about 3 minutes, he's going to realize this courtroom doesn't run on ego, volume, or money. That's his Judge Frank Caprio's house. Judge Frank Caprio glances at the file, then looks up with his usual warmth. "Good morning, Mr. Renford." The greeting is simple, respectful, and steady, a tone meant to ground the room. But Michael Renford doesn't return that energy. Instead, he exhales loudly, shakes his head, and mutters, "Can we make this quick? I really don't have all day." A ripple goes through the courtroom, tiny looks, slight head turns, that silent communal wow reaction. Even people who haven't spoken yet suddenly feel protective of the judge. Caprio, unfazed, folds his hands gently on the bench. We'll move as efficiently as we can, he replies, but we still have to give each case the attention it deserves. Renford raises an eyebrow like he's been told a bad joke. Attention it deserves. He scoffs. Your Honor, these are parking tickets. Speeding tickets. This isn't a criminal trial. I run 3 companies. I employ over 200 people. I shouldn't even be here. He gestures at the floor, then at his own chest, as if the concept of being accountable to anyone is somehow beneath him. Caprio stays still. Nevertheless, you are here, and will address the matters before us. Renford taps his fingers on the podium, restless and visibly irritated. Fantastic, he mutters. Another lecture. The clerk's eyebrows rise. A young mother sitting in the second row shoots Renford a look sharp enough to slice concrete. Even Torres, the bailiff, subtly adjusts his stance not aggressively. Just ready. Judge Caprio keeps his voice level, patient. Mr. Renford, let's begin with your 3 unpaid parking violations. Renford waves a dismissive hand. Yeah, I know. They're from downtown. I get it. But again, why are we wasting time? Just give me the fine. Whatever. I have a meeting at 10. The judge turns a page. The issue, sir, is not simply the fines. It's the pattern of behavior. Renford cuts him off. Oh, here we go. He actually rolls his eyes. An audible eye, the kind that would get most people grounded for a month if they did it at home. A few people gasped quietly. Someone in the back whispers. The nerve. Caprio pauses not long. Just enough to reset the room. Mr. Renford, he says calmly, I need you to allow me to finish. Renford throws up both palms in a fine, whatever motion. Look, he says, leaning into the mic as if addressing a child. I'm sure you deal with people who care deeply about this stuff. I don't. These are trivial infractions. I have real responsibilities, real obligations. My time is valuable. There it is. That line, the one that always reveals more than the speaker intends. Caprio doesn't react immediately. He lets silence do the work for a second or two. Then, everyone's time in this courtroom is valuable, including mine, including yours. But the law applies equally to everyone who walks through that door. Renford shrugs, unconvinced. If you say so. The tone is sarcastic enough to make a man in the third row shake his head slowly. The air feels thicker now. Not angry, just tense. Like the room itself is waiting for the judge to respond. Caprio turns the page again. It also says here, you were cited for careless driving. The officer noted, you were weaving between lanes and it was traffic. Renford interrupts. Everyone was weaving. Singling me out is ridiculous. The officer also stated you refused to fully pull over and said, quote, do you know who I am? Renford smirks. That's called confidence. Judge Caprio's eyes lift. There's a fine line between confidence and disrespect. Which side do you feel you were on? Oh, come on, Renford laughs. You're really taking this personally. No, Caprio replies gently. I'm taking it seriously. There's a difference. More murmurs from the benches. A few nods. People love that line. But Renford isn't done. I think this whole system is outdated. He says, gesturing broadly to the courtroom. You're clogging courts with tiny offenses. I shouldn't have to stand here and justify myself for something that honestly is beneath me. That sentence lands like a dropped weight. The room stiffens. A clerk's eyes widen slightly. Someone mutters, wow. Under their breath, Judge Caprio remains composed. Mr. Renford, this courtroom serves the public. Beneath you or not, we treat every case with respect. And I expect the same from you. Renford leans on the podium. Bored? Okay. Can we move on? Every gesture, every sound he makes adds another layer of entitlement. And every time, the judge answers with dignity, patience, and a soft firmness that keeps the room from boiling over. This is the first clash. Respect versus arrogance. Calm authority versus dismissive ego. And anyone watching can feel it. Renford is only getting warmed up. The tension in the room is no longer subtle. People sit a little tighter on the benches. The air feels warmer. Like everyone is collectively holding their breath each time Michael Renford opens his mouth. And he opens it often. Judge Caprio turns to the next citation. Moving on to the second speeding ticket, Renford interrupts immediately. Actually, can I just pay everything up front now? I don't need a breakdown. I don't need a recap. Let's just wrap this. Caprio lifts his eyes. We need to go through the charges. Sir, Renford snaps. You think I came here to chit-chat? A woman in the back row winces like she just bit into something sour. Even Torres, the ever-professional bailiff, shifts just enough to signal. This guy is pushing it. But the judge doesn't flinch. Mr. Renford, this is not chit-chat. This is due process. Renford scoffs so loudly it echoes. Due process for traffic nonsense. Great. Escalation, stage 1. Interrupting the judge. He's already done it 3 times. Most people wouldn't dare. Renford seems to consider it a conversational sport. Caprio continues. On this ticket, the officer states you were clocked at. Oh please, Renford cuts in again. Those radar guns are a joke. My cars are basically smoother than half the roads in this city. Honestly, you should be thanking me. I pay more taxes than anyone here. I practically fund half this block. Gasps. Actual gasps. A man in a work jacket raises his eyebrows high enough to hit his hairline. A teenager waiting for his own case tilts his head with a slow, wow. Judge Caprio takes a long, slow breath, not angry. Just grounding himself. Escalation stage 2, flexing wealth status. And Renford isn't done. You know, he adds casually, as if offering a friendly fact. My companies bring millions into this city. I employ people. A lot of people, families. You think I have time to babysit tiny tickets? I've got actual responsibilities. Caprio nods slightly. You have responsibilities, and one of them is obeying the law, just like everyone else. Renford laughs short, sharp, arrogant. That sounds nice for people with nothing else going on. There's a low murmur. People lean away from him like entitlement is contagious. Escalation stage 3. Insulting ordinary people. He doesn't see it, or doesn't care. The judge maintains his steady tone. Mr. Renford, I would encourage you to speak respectfully about the people in this courtroom. Did I hurt someone's feelings? He turns around, glancing at the benches. Look, nothing personal. Folks, I'm sure you're all trying your best or whatever. A collective eye roll from the room. Even those who came in stressed about their own cases now look united in disbelief. Caprio presses on. The third parking ticket was issued after your vehicle was seen occupying a loading zone. Renford waves a dismissive hand. My assistant was supposed to handle that. Blame her. Escalation stage 4, refusing responsibility. Your vehicle. Your responsibility, the judge replies. That's old-fashioned. Renford shoots back. Successful people delegate. You should try it. That line strikes a nerve knot with Caprio, but with the audience. It's one thing to be rude. It's another to belittle a man who has spent decades serving the city with calm dignity. A father holding his toddler whispers. Unbelievable. Torres stands a little straighter. Caprio stays composed. Delegation is one thing, Mr. Renford. Accountability is another. Renford smirks. Well, accountability is why I hired a legal team. Speaking of which, can't we just call my lawyer and speed this up? Caprio's tone remains gentle, but firmer now. If you wish to be represented by counsel, they should have been present. Renford waves him off again. They're too busy to spend time on parking tickets. And so am I. He huffs, loudly, dramatically, like a teenager who's been told to clean his room. Escalation, stage 5, hinting he should be exempt from rules. Honestly, Your Honor, he continues, there should be a separate process for people who contribute more to the city. You know, priority lanes, like airports, that hits the room like a slap. A woman speaks softly under her breath. Wow. Just wow. Caprio leans forward slightly, hands folded. In this courtroom, everyone stands in the same line. Renford shrugs as if the judge is missing something obvious. Well, maybe that's the problem. More gasps. Even a stifled snort from someone who knows the man. Just buried himself deeper. Escalation stage 6. Threatening to walk out. Finally, Renford checks his watch dramatically. Look, I've given this more time than it deserves. If we're not wrapping soon, I'll just come back with my lawyer, and we can do it their way. Caprio's eyes lift slowly. Leaving while your case is being heard is not an option. Renford smirks. Everything's an option if you're willing to deal with the consequences. And trust me, I have better things to do. The judge looks at him with calm that borders on surgical precision. Mr. Renford, he says gently, you're testing the limits of this courtroom's patience. Renford shrugs. Story of my life. The audience is now fully invested. You can feel the collective desire for accountability simmering under every breath. Renford stands there, shoulders back, chin raised, expression carved from pure disdain. Judge Caprio sits there grounded and unmoved. It is a perfect storm, and the next moment will turn the tide. The courtroom has reached that quiet boiling point, the kind where nobody speaks, but everyone is waiting for the next spark to hit dry timber. Renford stands at the podium, arms crossed now, jaw slightly forward, chin lifted. It's the stance of a man who thinks he's untouchable. A man who's pushed every social boundary in the room just to see where the wall is. Judge Caprio looks at him the way a wise parent looks at a child testing the world patiently, not angrily. Mr. Renford, he says slowly, I need your cooperation. Nothing more, nothing less. Renford laughs under his breath. Cooperation. Come on, Judge. I didn't sign up for a lecture on manners. I just came to pay a few tickets. And yet, Caprio replies, your attitude is turning this into something much larger. Renford leans forward, voice sharp. My attitude is my business. Caprio tilts his head. In this courtroom, your attitude affects the process. The room holds its breath, and then it happens. Renford reaches for his phone, grabs it, and says loudly, you know what? I'm done. I'll have my lawyers handle this. I'm not wasting another minute. He actually starts to turn away from the podium. That movement, just that one step, breaks the unspoken contract of the room. Torres, the bailiff, moves first, not aggressively, not loudly, just one firm step forward and a calm, steady voice. Sir, you need to remain where you are. Renford freezes, surprised. He's not used to anyone telling him no, especially not like that calm, grounded, final. He turns back, annoyed. I said I'm leaving. This is ridiculous. Torres doesn't raise his voice. Do not walk away while your case is being heard. A heavy silence drops over the room like a curtain. Everyone knows this is the moment where the rules clarify themselves, where authority stops being polite and simply becomes real. Renford hesitates, just for a split second, and everyone sees it, the tiny break in his armor. The first flicker of uncertainty. Judge Caprio speaks softly, but with a weight that settles the entire room. Mr. Renford, he says, if you walk out of this courtroom, you risk being held in contempt, and that carries consequences far more significant than a few traffic violations. Renford turns back fully now, shoulders stiff. Contempt. For what? Caprio shakes his head. No. For refusing to participate in your own hearing, for defying a direct instruction from the court, and for conduct that disrupts these proceedings. Torres stays within a respectful distance, but just close enough that nobody mistakes the meaning. Renford looks between the judge and the bailiff. This is the moment where people like him usually expect someone to yield. But nothing yields here. The power shift is silent, but absolute. Renford's mouth opens, then closes. His fingers tighten around his phone. You can practically see the internal calculation on his face. The first time he's had to consider that maybe, just maybe, he's not holding all the cards. The judge doesn't gloat. He doesn't raise his voice. He simply lets the rules stand tall on their own legs. Now, Caprio continues. Shall we proceed? Or do you wish to continue challenging the very process that exists to protect everyone equally? The humiliation isn't loud. It isn't theatrical. It's quiet, steady, respectful, but unmistakable. Renford steps back to the podium, shoulders stiff, jaw tight. He doesn't speak. Not yet. But the room feels the shift. The arrogance has cracked. The judge, not through force, not through anger, but through unwavering dignity, now sits fully in command. And everyone watching thinks the same thing. Finally, someone he can't talk over. The podium feels different now. Renford stands behind it, no longer lounging, no longer half turned away like he's ready to exit mid. He's upright, still tense, still simmering, but the air of invincibility around him has thinned. Judge Frank Caprio reopens the folder in front of him, with the kind of deliberate calm that tells the entire room, the lesson is about to begin. Mr. Renford, he says evenly, let us review the original violations. Caprio speaks with clarity, not drama, just the clean truth laid out, step by measured step. You have 3 unpaid parking tickets, totaling $180. You have 2 camera-recorded speeding citations, each $45. And you have 1 citation for careless driving, which carries a base fine of $100. Renford nods stiffly, trying to maintain some sense of control. Fine, I'll pay the total. Caprio holds up a hand, not stopping him, just structuring the moment. Under ordinary circumstances, he explains gently, that might have been the end of this matter. A simple fine, a brief reminder, and you would have been on your way. A subtle wave of tension rolls through the benches. Everyone can feel the pivot coming. But today, the judge continues. The issue is not only the violations themselves, it is your conduct both at the time of the incident, and especially here in court. Renford lifts his chin. I've already explained. Caprio cuts him off, but calmly. No, you have minimized, you have deflected, and you have repeatedly disrespected this court and the people who serve it. The defendant's mouth tightens. Caprio remains composed. The law allows discretion in determining penalties when a defendant's behavior interferes with the administration of justice. Your interruptions, your refusal to cooperate, your attempts to leave mid-hearing, these things matter. A few people nod quietly. The room's energy feels unified, not hostile, just aligned with fairness. So, Caprio continues, here are the consequences. He places both hands firmly on the bench. First, the fines for your parking and speeding violations will stand at their maximum assessed amount. That brings your total to $480. Renford exhales sharply through his nose, but says nothing. Second, the judge adds, the careless driving citation will not be reduced. It remains at the full statutory penalty of $250. Jaw twitches. Caprio doesn't waver. This is a direct result of your conduct. Today you will complete 6 hours of community service within the next 30 days. At a location approved by the court, a ripple moves across the benches. Community service hits differently. It feels personal. It feels corrective. It feels earned. RENFORD blinks. What? Community service? For traffic tickets? No, Caprio says gently. For the attitude you brought into this courtroom. The defendant scoffs, but more quietly this time. This is excessive. It is appropriate, Caprio replies, given the disregard you showed for law enforcement, court staff, and the judicial process itself. The judge turns one more page, and finally, I am ordering you to attend a driver responsibility and safety course. This is not punitive. It is educational. It is meant to address the pattern of behavior demonstrated both in the incident and today. Renford exclaims under his breath, unbelievable. Caprio looks at him not with anger, but with an unwavering firmness that leaves no room for negotiation. Mr. Renford, he says, voice steady, this is not about punishing success or wealth. It is about addressing dangerous driving, chronic disrespect, and a belief that rules are optional. The room falls completely still. Your bank account does not exempt you from courtesy. The judge continues, and your status does not excuse misconduct. A man in the benches quietly murmurs, Amen. Renford stands there, shoulders drawn tight, realizing every downward step he took in this hearing is now reflected in the upward climb of his consequences. It is fair, it is lawful, it is earned, and for the first time all morning, he has no words. The courtroom is quiet, no, not tense, not buzzing, just settling, like dust after a storm. Renford stands at the podium, still tall, still polished, but no longer inflated. The edges of his ego have softened. You can see it in the slight slump of his shoulders, the tightness around his eyes, the way he holds his phone, now not as a shield, but like an object he suddenly isn't sure what to do with. Judge Caprio closes the file, not dramatically, just with that gentle, deliberate finality that says the law has spoken. Mr. Renford, he begins softly, before I finalize these orders, I want to give you an opportunity. Renford looks up, confused. Opportunity for what? Caprio folds his hands. To show the court that you understand the seriousness of what happened here today. A flicker of defensiveness returns to Renford's eyes, but it's weaker now, tired even. I already said I'd pay the fines, he mutters. That's not what I'm referring to, Caprio clarifies. This is not just about fines. It's about respect for the law, for the people who work here, for the community you drive in. Renford's jaw tightens. Pride presses against practicality. You can almost hear the internal argument in his silence. Why should I apologize? But if I don't, this gets worse. But I shouldn't have to. But maybe I do. Caprio watches him patiently, like someone giving a person space to walk across the bridge they've been avoiding. Finally, after a long breath, Renford speaks. He stops, starts again. His voice is quieter this time. I got frustrated. I shouldn't have taken it out on you, or your staff. Nobody moves. Nobody even shifts on the benches. And I shouldn't have tried to walk out, he adds, swallowing his pride. That was disrespectful. I see that now. Caprio nods once, and toward the officer who pulled you over. Renford hesitates, but only for a moment. Yeah, him too. I shouldn't have talked to him the way I did. It is not a dramatic apology, not theatrical, not polished. It's imperfect, strained, awkward. Exactly the kind that comes from someone unused to bowing their head, but finally realizing the ground they stand on isn't as high as they believed. Caprio absorbs the words with quiet dignity. Thank you, Mr. Renford, he says simply. Acknowledging your behavior is an important step. The court accepts your apology. A sense of relief ripples through the room, not triumph, not gloating, just balance restored, order reestablished. Humanity rediscovered. Renford stands a little straighter now, but in a different way, not towering above the room, but standing with it. That is the emotional reset the courtroom needed. And what happens next, the judge's moral message, will stay with everyone who hears it. The courtroom is quiet enough to hear a breath, a shuffle of shoes, even the faint hum of the fluorescent lights overhead. Judge Frank Caprio leans back slightly, not distancing himself, but giving his words room to settle. Mr. Renford, he begins, I want to say something not to embarrass you, and not to scold you, but because moments like this offer a lesson for all of us. Renford nods once, still processing, still uneasy but listening. Caprio continues gently. When you walked into this courtroom, you carried yourself as though the world owed you something, as though your accomplishments placed you above the people sitting here. But the truth is, none of us are above anyone in this room. He pauses, letting that idea breathe. In my years on the bench, I've seen people with nothing, no money, no connections, no comfort walk in with more grace and humility than those who have the world at their feet. A few heads in the audience bow, acknowledging the truth of it. This courtroom, Caprio says, tapping the bench lightly, does not measure the size of your bank account. It measures the size of your character. The words hang there, clean and unforgettable. You spoke earlier about success. The judge goes on. Success is something to be proud of, but it does not buy you a discount on decency. You don't get to pay less respect because you earn more income. Someone in the benches murmurs, that's right, under their breath. Caprio keeps his focus on Renford. The law applies to all of us equally. That is the foundation of justice. If we start treating people differently because they have money, or power, or influence, then we don't have justice at all. Renford shifts, absorbing the weight of it. You mentioned that your time is valuable, Caprio adds softly. And it is, but so is the time of every person who sat in this room today. The mother with 2 jobs, the man who works overnight shifts, the students, the retirees, the cab drivers, the clerks. Their time is not worth less than yours. The courtroom feels full of meaning, full of truth. When you belittled the system, Caprio says, what you were really doing was belittling the community. He pauses again, voice softer now. This city is not built on the backs of 1 or 2 successful people. It is built on the daily work of thousands quiet, honest, hard-working individuals whose names you may never know, but whose labor makes it possible for the rest of us to live our lives. Renford stands still, no arrogance left in his posture, only reflection. Responsibility, Caprio finishes, is not a burden given only to the poor. It belongs equally to the wealthy. In fact, the more privilege you have, the greater your responsibility becomes. To lead with humility, to act with decency, to treat others with dignity. Then, with the grace that defines him, he delivers the final quote-worthy lines. In this courtroom, respect is not purchased. It is practiced. And the only thing that truly sets us apart is how we treat the people who cannot give us anything in return. The silence afterward is almost sacred, a silence filled with understanding, acceptance, and a kind of moral clarity that lingers in the air long after the judge's voice fades. The hearing is technically over, but the impact of it lingers like a mirror quietly placed in front of everyone watching. The people in the benches shift, gathering their things slowly, still thinking about what they witnessed. Even Renford stands there for a moment longer than expected, as if replaying the judge's words in his mind. Moments like this aren't just about one defendant, one judge, or one courtroom. They're about all of us. Because entitlement isn't limited to wealth. It isn't limited to one city, one class, or one type of person. It shows up in subtle ways, cutting in line, talking down to someone, assuming rules bend for our convenience. And most of us have seen it. Some have lived under it. A few might even recognize pieces of it in themselves. So let me ask you something. Just between us, if you had that kind of money, that kind of influence, if you had people telling you yes all day long, would you still stay humble? Would you still say, please, thank you, and I'm sorry when it mattered? Or would you be tempted just a little to believe the world owed you a shortcut? And here's another question. Do you think, in your city or country, the wealthy and powerful get treated differently in court? Have you seen situations where arrogance went unchecked for too long? Share your thoughts in the comments, not as a debate, not as an argument, but as stories and reflections from wherever you are watching. From small towns, big cities, different countries, different systems, your experiences matter, and they help these stories become more than entertainment. They become reminders of how justice should look everywhere. Because one truth stays the same across borders and languages. Respect is universal, and humility is the real equalizer. Michael Renford walked into that courtroom expecting shortcuts, special treatment, and a fast exit. He walked out with something far more valuable, a reminder that in Judge Caprio's courtroom, respect is earned, not bought. His fines, his community service, his required course, those are consequences anyone could have faced under the same circumstances. But the real transformation happened inside him, in the quiet shift from entitlement to accountability. And that's the part that stays with you long after the video ends. If you believe in judges who balance mercy with responsibility, if you respect leaders who stand firm without ever raising their voice, if you're tired of seeing arrogance steamroll people who are just trying to do their jobs, then you're in the right place. This channel is all about true courtroom stories, where humanity sits beside the law, where ordinary people are treated with dignity, and where entitlement meets consequences, fair ones, grounded ones, the kind that make you say, finally, justice done right. So if you want more stories like this, more moments where character matters more than status, more lessons that leave you thinking long after the screen fades, feel free to stick around. Subscribe if you'd like to join a community that values compassion, clarity, and accountability in the real world. Thank you for spending this time with me. And wherever you're watching from, may respect always meet you, and may humility always guide you.